My name is Terri and I am a
Hey, and welcome to So in the hypnosis model, when the person is then getting ready to let the coach then move in, because they've asked all the questions, they've collated all the wording and everything like that. And of course, with the hypnosis, you've got to remember to be able to say, well, you did used to feel really exhausted, didn't you? So you start using past, present tense. And isn't it nice to know that as you sit here, remember the truisms, and as you see me, as you wear the hat, as you are listening to this, you may just find your energy rising and rising and rising, isn't it, now? So then
you're moving the tense.
Yeah, you are.
Just got to ask the right questions.
Exactly.
Where does one learn these correct questions though, right?
What? It's what? It's all about what.
Okay.
If you can think of any question with what at the beginning, what is it that you want? What is it that's happening for you right now? What is it that if you did have that, it would mean for you?
Okay.
This is the first 101 thing that we learn with NLP and communication, and then the art of clean language. What is it that you want? What is it that's happening for you right now? What is it that if you did have that, it would mean for you?
Okay.
This is the first 101 thing that we learn with NLP and communication, and then the art of clean language. So you're not getting into the other person's mud pile. You're staying very clean. But if they say, oh, you know, I'm feeling exhausted and unappreciated, and I hate my boss. Let's just use that one.
Oh, it's Edge Radio Australia. It is time for a little show. We bring in Terri Messenger, quite frankly, the genius whisperer here. Okay. I don't know. I'm throwing titles out there. Why not? I am ready for a big show. Are you ready for a big show?
I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be, Aaron.
Really? Okay. You've got notes and everything today. What's going on there?
I don't know. I had a moment of madness.
Well, you've got page 1. I see that. Okay. I'm very happy to see page 1, but page 2. I've snuck this in. This is actually, we've had some viewers and listeners during the week who have actually sent some stuff in. So I thought I was prepared. I was feeling good about myself. You know, I've printed. I mean, come on, that's a big effort. That's hard work.
And then I just capped it.
You did. You've made it all work, all come together. Now, of course, Terri Messenger, and we are doing the Genius Zone here. We talk about NLP. We talk about hypnosis. We talk about all sorts of ways to basically free your mind and get the best out of yourself.
Actually, I just came from a shop, a dress boutique, actually.
Oh, nice.
Because I'm doing like a bit of a rebrand. My sister wants to do some photos.
Right.
And she's got a bit of a hobby of photography.
Great hobby. Awesome hobby.
Yeah. And I was in there, and it's interesting because I nearly didn't go.
Oh, really?
And something said to me, turn around and go. Just go. And I thought, oh, I can smash this in, you know, like nothing like being a last minute freak, right? So I got there, and the woman, she was one of my people, Aaron.
Oh, she was one of your people.
She was one of my people, as in she is a genius, like already.
Are we talking in colour coordination?
We're talking in everything, like, you know, dress and just the way she is. But she was actually launching a business before the big C word.
Oh, yes, the woo flu, yes.
Yeah, the C word. And she basically couldn't go ahead with the business because she just lost momentum.
Oh, people do. It's so easy for that to happen. Yeah.
She was just stuck with the whole analysis paralysis.
Right.
And who was she telling this to? Me. Why?
Look, isn't that the universe kind of providing,
and it
right?
was.
Yeah.
And then we both decided, even though I did pick up a couple of frocks,
Right.
to get
Frocks.
frocked up
Right.
on
Yes.
Friday with the sister and my mum. So even though it was
Family
that,
affair.
we felt like there was a bit of a divine intervention.
Okay.
So we're gonna meet up
Brilliant.
and
Absolutely brilliant.
look at how we can just find her zone of genius.
Isn't
really
it great though in life?
Mm.
Okay, if you're sort of open to it and you're going to go, I don't know, you're on the front foot, all right, and
Yeah.
you're showing the world kind of what you do.
Mm.
How you're kind of attracted to the people who either need it or the other way around. You've got that same kind of attitude, but you're attracting the people you need.
Yeah, it's just very bizarre. It's like an energetic frequency of do 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 do. And the more that you understand where you're going and what you desire, the more likely you're going to attract the right things and the right people.
Well, we want to do this. All right. Law of attraction. I hear so much about that. Used to think it was just a complete, bit of a bit of fluff. But my word, do I see it as being the real deal these days. When I have happened to open my mind and then look at things, it's when you're running through life kind of a bit on autopilot, you don't tend to, we don't pick up on the small details in life that actually make the big differences, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
very, very cool. All right. Well, so we're going to go through a few things today. Do you want to give us a bit of run through? Actually, and I'll take this opportunity. Obviously, we're being watched online on all different places, around the place.
Lots of different places,
For
but
sure.
nobody on one place.
I know. Well, that's the thing though. It's very interesting on that because we see one feed,
Yeah.
and then later on I go and look at it, hours later and go, oh, there's people there, there's people there, there's people there, and all those fantastic questions do get funneled in through this one. So
that's amazing.
That's the great thing. I don't know how technology
Yes.
works. I just press the buttons and hope things work, and they generally do. So
Yep.
if you've got any questions or comments, get them in, and I will try and get them on the screen if I can. And of course, more importantly, would love to answer them. So where we'll go with that. Beautiful.
Sounds good.
So let's jump into it. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, I thought we would talk about emotional intelligence. And
Have you been reading my diary? I don't have one. I'm only kidding.
Maybe
I
not.
don't have one. No.
Look, I know the future is so bright in your world right now. I thought I would bring my shades.
And
wear
very
my
stylish
shades,
they
yeah.
are indeed.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm a man of classics.
Sheen, actually.
Sorry?
Sheen. Have you heard of Sheen?
No.
Well, I'm hopeless with sunglasses, Aaron.
Right.
I mean, you see me, I lose my phone, I leave it around. I've got to go, hey, Siri, hey, Siri. I just wished everything had a hey, Siri.
I thought you had a friend Siri because you walk in here.
Well,
oh, there we go.
He's
She's talking to you
answering me
right
now,
there.
and he's answering me. Oh my gosh.
You get a bloke Siri.
I do.
Oh, so I changed my phone. So
Mm.
with directions, I have a very stylish, little bit hot sounding English woman. It just makes driving so much more pleasurable.
Yes.
I'm liking that. There we go.
Yeah, I think it's a thing where the guys like to have the lady's voice and the chicks like to have the man's voice.
Very true.
There you go.
Very true.
Mm.
Now, let's not steer too far away from emotional intelligence.
Yes.
This is a biggie. This is a biggie. I think we could probably do
is.
about 4 hours on this. Don't worry, we won't. But maybe over weeks, you never know. But there are so many people out there with book smarts or street smarts or this smarts or that smarts, right?
Yeah.
But my word, do we have a massive void of emotional intelligence? And that might sound nasty to say that, but I'd be absolutely pointing the finger at myself in the past. I think that, I worked very much on almost a two-dimensional level emotionally.
Two-dimensional, not three, not even three.
I don't think so. No.
Ooh.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being harsh. I'm not sure. But I now, after a lot of things have happened in my life and reflection and, like taking personal responsibility, I think is the door that opens up emotional intelligence.
Oh, it so does.
Right.
It is a biggie. And if that door is not opened of responsibility, the universe goes, I'm not giving you that big dream that you want. Because you know how they say knowledge is power?
Oh, love that saying.
Knowledge may be power, but you also, with knowledge and power comes great responsibility.
Very good point. I was going to say action because, okay, you can have knowledge and that power, but if you don't take action, it's doing nothing. It's spinning its wheels.
Oh.
It's going absolutely nowhere, right?
Yes.
So you've got to do that. But I do really take your point as well. That's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, that's probably one of the biggest problems in the online space, especially.
Okay.
With people I see, they're really good. Like this lady I was just talking to.
Yep.
So talented, so gifted, but they're not taking the action. So
Mhm.
they're kind of wasting
You
all
are.
their talent. It's hiding.
Mm,
And
yeah.
and this is the thing, you know, when it's hiding, you know, the question is, well, where is it hiding?
That's a really good one. I mean, we've talked about, you know, as a bloke, I put things in boxes. Or
Mhm.
maybe, yeah, sometimes maybe these boxes are taped shut. I don't know.
Well, what about getting out that Stanley
Oh,
and opening it up and just releasing it?
totally
Just
agree.
one thing at a time. Like you'll find yourself, actually, this is one little piece of information. If you ask yourself the
Mm.
right questions, like, what do I have to do to get $500 in my bank account today?
Right.
You know what? The answer comes.
Your finances. Absolutely. You
It's
find a way.
crazy.
Yeah.
It is crazy. This has literally happened to me.
Okay.
You know, what do I have to do to make this happen?
Right.
What do I have to do to get, say, 20 people
Mm-hmm.
coming into our workshop?
Yep.
That is coming up.
Coming out very soon. Look, we're going to announce a date very soon, which I'm looking
Yes.
forward to. I really
Yeah.
am.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a new world to me. So
Mm.
I'm loving sort of experiencing it, but I'm also loving sharing it with others.
Yeah.
Right? I think I mean, one of the greatest gifts in the world is the ability to actually share it with others, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can have
I agree.
you can have all the knowledge, all the toys, all the whatever.
Mm.
But if
Yep.
you I don't know, it's very lonely.
Yeah.
Unless you
Yeah.
can part that wisdom on or share that wisdom with others. And when I say that, I don't mean it in a way of like, oh, gee, come and listen to me.
Mm.
Not at all.
Mm.
It's a two-way exchange.
Yeah.
I mean, when you meet people and you talk about your ideas, they bring forward theirs and you grow. You become a better,
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
rounded person.
Mm.
I'm round enough. But
No comment.
no comment. But that is tied big time into what you're talking about here,
Yeah.
emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And that you require the ability to listen to others, take in that information. You need that.
You
For that
do.
emotional intelligence.
And sometimes it's about getting to know what's going on in the other person's world.
Mhm.
This is a big thing when it comes to relationships.
Yeah.
Quite often, if there's something going wrong and you're having a big blue with someone,
Yep.
you know, you're having a screeching argument, when you pull yourself back and you start asking yourself the right questions, like, what is actually going on for this person?
Mhm.
What is happening in their world right now?
Yep.
And remember those three things. I believe I've said this before, but the three things where it comes down to human values.
Yes.
Number one,
Yep.
not in this order, remember,
Okay.
love and connection. Are they feeling a grave lack of love and connection
Okay.
with what's happening? Number two, could it be that they don't feel important? Like so
Ooh.
they feel completely like just passed over, you know, not important. And that's a big one if that is someone's really highest value. And
I
the last
agree.
one is maybe they feel really uncertain. So this is where it can apply to anything in life,
Okay.
Aaron. So if there's a lack of certainty,
Mhm.
that really paralyzes people
Okay.
because it kind of paralyzes them with the fear.
Mhm.
And, you know, people will snap off
Mhm.
or they'll do things and leave you wondering. And look, families break up, dynamics break up.
Life changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we can see the world in a different way and if in a different light and we can ask the right questions, the whole world will change.
Just got to ask the right questions.
Exactly.
Where does one learn these correct questions though, right?
What?
Mhm.
It's what? It's
What?
all about what.
Okay.
If you can think of any question
Mhm.
with what at the beginning,
Mhm.
what is it that you want? What is it that's happening for you right now? What is it that if you did have that, it would mean for you?
Okay.
This is the first 101 thing that we learn with NLP
Sure.
and communication, and then the art of clean language. So you're not getting into the other person's mud pile. You're staying very clean. But if they say, "Oh, you know, I'm feeling exhausted and unappreciated, and I hate my boss," let's just use that one.
Don't we all? Particularly those who are self-employed.
Self-employed. You said that, boy. So there's only one thing you have to answer, and that is what kind of, and it can be hatred, what kind of angry, what kind of, mad, what kind of, I don't know, exhausted is that?
Okay. So, if I were to say, hypothetical here, if you're angry or whatever, you might go, okay, what kind of emotions behind it? Yeah, and you said, for argument's sake, frustration.
Yeah.
So that would create the anger. Is that kind of, am I going down the right path?
Yeah. So if you said frustration, right, the chances are that's not really that's only superficial.
Okay.
So to go deep, it's like, that's when you say, well, what kind of frustration? And then they have to come up with an emotionally intelligent other word, like to find what it is. Like it's like an angry frustration.
All right. Well,
and the deeper you go down, the more you go down and get underneath it, you'll find that once they either say the same thing twice or they start balking.
Okay.
That's when you nailed it.
Right. Okay, because they've reaffirmed it, obviously. Because what about this little question then? What about when you're dealing with people, and this could be, it could be a personal relationship, it could be a work relationship, it could be, all a club relationship, any kind, right? What if you're both coming from a place where one person's emotional intelligence is at one level and the other is at a different level? How do we make that work?
Okay, so is this in the real world, Aaron, or is this in the NLP world?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because if it's in the NLP world, it just comes back to rapport. You don't act like you've got it all together. It's really important that you build the rapport. You understand where that other person's coming from.
Okay. So you try and match their level?
There is a matching and mirroring, which they do talk about a lot, because the matching and mirroring makes the other person feel comfortable, and people like-minded people.
Oh, of course. No doubt about it. Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be a narcissistic thing. No. I think you were teaching me on one of your shows about how the narcissist can kind of just say all the right things and do all the right things and be all the right things, but they're not really being their authentic self. No. Yeah, this is different. Okay. This is more that you're with them at that present point and matching and mirroring them.
Sure.
And then, of course,
is it the mirroring without the manipulation?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that the difference?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Like the guy who calmed me down, I trained him in NLP, and he's a personal trainer. He's like built like real muscles and all the rest of it. And we were sitting in a class and I was stressed out, and he probably thought, how can I change Terri's state? Okay. Now, that was a good question, right? If he probably did ask himself that question. And so he started mirroring my breathing. So I don't know whether you remember that I mentioned this on a few shows ago.
No, I do actually remember.
Yeah.
Because I'm still...
And you're probably wondering, what the heck is
I still struggle with it
about?
a little bit. I do. Yeah.
So what that is, it's bringing it into synchrony. Sure. He would have had to notice my breathing and start breathing. But then once we're in the synchrony, he starts to slow down his breathing, and then it's like, they say women's clocks.
Yeah.
Their clocks.
Look, in here, I was thinking that. Yeah. Out here, didn't want to say it.
Yeah.
Because
well, there you
for a fella, that's dangerous territory.
Yeah. It's true, though.
But it is true. Yeah. We all know that. Yeah. Okay. And I think in some ways blokes do very much the same thing.
And did you know clocks chime eventually? Like, they'll all be ticking at their own leisure, but eventually they'll all go tick tock.
I'm not saying that I've got any touch of OCD, but the other day I was trying to get my windscreen wipers in time with my indicators. Just saying. Okay, just saying.
You said you didn't have OCD.
Just move it a little bit. I just kind of thought, oh, they're so close. I was going to, yeah. Oh, yeah, baby.
That's
nailed
good.
it. Nailed it. I'm happy with that.
Oh, my
Oh, the
gosh.
simple things in life.
Yeah.
But okay, so that's one technique
Yeah.
as far as how NLP can
Yeah.
work in that respect. So what are other techniques?
Oh, so many. So asking the right questions is number one.
Okay.
Asking yourself, not just the other person. It's like, what is going on here? And not why. Don't ask why, because you'll go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You know, you come up with all sorts of different things. Whereas keeping it what is very, very important.
I like that because I often use the why, and I may as well bring a shovel
Yeah.
with me because, you know, start digging.
Yeah.
There's a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay.
And you
On
want to
that
keep
front-
it like that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sorry, a minute.
No, that's okay.
But I was going to ask you about a term because I don't know, as silly as it sounds, you said that, you know, going down that path. What about anchoring? I hear that term, right?
Oh,
Okay.
yes, that's a good one.
So how does
Very
that work?
popular. Look, anybody who knows how to anchor and anchor themselves and anchor other people has got a lot of credibility and incredible, because who doesn't want to feel good? As long as you're anchoring people in the right way.
Sure.
So this is the funny thing. If somebody is sad and someone is or in a bad mood, you do not want to touch them. You know how everyone comforts people and they, you know, they start to cry, and the first thing you want to do is reach out and touch them or just, you know, show that there's something. You don't do that.
Wide berth, right?
You know,
Give them a wide berth.
yeah, it's because you're anchoring in that feeling. You want to be able to anchor in the feeling that's great. So you're doing that through, obviously, touch, ethical touch.
Sure.
So if you're a practitioner, you would utilize their knuckle, maybe their shoulder.
Sure.
And I have a very distinctive left-right rule that I teach to other coaches, where if you remember that the left side is the negative and the right side is the positive, then if they come in and see you or you're talking to them again, and it's like in therapy, you're not going to accidentally hit off that left side. But it's really anchoring is the 101 thing that will certify a practitioner at NLP. And yet it could be like, can you remember a time, Aaron, when you felt so exhilarated, like there was a bit of adventure, there was this excitement, there was something you were about to do, something you were about to land something. Now, if the person is kind of, doing what you're doing right now, which is thinking about it, and they're trying to find it, you could even, you know, tap in a little bit and help them. Like, well, what about when you did the first car you bought? Or steer them.
Yeah.
I mean, what about when you bought your first car?
Yeah. Okay.
Or what about the first time that you raced?
Yeah.
Okay. That is
because when you asked
anchor.
me the question, I was going through my mind of, I mean, I've been very, very lucky in life. I've done some, in my opinion anyway, other people might not find them as cool as I do, but for my life, I've done some bloody cool things. Yeah. So, you know, which one do I pick? But if you're, I see what you're saying, just steer them in the particular path you go.
Some people need help.
I think it's probably a good opportunity to say this too. Okay, what we're doing here and the things we discuss, I don't want to ever take away from what you do in your practice, because the reality is in your practice you can personalize it. This is very generalized, right? I mean, as far as this is, a lot of techniques and all of that, but I can 100% see the value of just sitting down one-on-one. That time to me is very important. So, while I do love stealing, you know, your information and picking your brains.
It's good. You're a trained NLP practitioner by now.
I don't think
Aaron,
so.
I mean, like even when I was learning neuro-linguistic programming, it was really something that I found I had a strong affinity with anyway. Maybe it was built through, you know, just having self-life, you know, coaching, self-coaching tools and techniques and resources that I had to develop over the years that were really brought into conscious competency.
Okay. Would that be related to when you're transforming your negative images and thoughts into positive ones?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
says Richard Bandler himself.
Right.
So
Okay.
Richard, if you look him up, he is fabulous with this. Well, why don't you just turn that picture down? Can you now make it black and white? Why
Oh,
don't we shrink that little baby and then run it backwards and forwards and even put some circus music around it?
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because people do create their world through their coding system in their
Right.
brain, their superconscious. And so they don't even realize this. However, they're making pictures all the time.
Mhm.
They're telling themselves stories. And when you change it, when you shrink it down, it's the first presupposition of taking control of your mind, because you're changing the perception. And that's what it's all about. I mean, Richard just does it in a very creative way, you know?
Right. Well, now you just said about the pictures. Now,
Mm.
okay, I am generalizing big time here, but men are very visual animals, right? Okay, so painting a picture is very important to a man. Yeah, if you can see yourself in that sports car, you've got a greater chance of actually achieving that, right?
Yeah.
If you see yourself in that happy relationship, you've got a far greater chance, because we're just very visual creatures.
Yeah.
Women, they tell me, okay, don't think that way, aren't as visual. So I'm told.
Some are.
Yeah, and I'm generalizing big
yep,
time
yep.
here. So, but I'm just curious on that, because, okay, as you know, when we're working with NLP, would you vary what you do, obviously for the individual, but to just the peculiarities of their gender? Does that make sense?
It's actually, it doesn't get so boxed.
Okay.
It
Cool.
doesn't. It's so true that everybody is different,
Mhm.
and some people will process their thoughts through what they see in the eye of their mind,
Okay.
and they might drop down. Like I'm, for example, very visual kinesthetic.
Okay. Okay.
So my husband, on the other hand, is very audible kinesthetic.
Right.
So he drops down from here to here. So he's always in this, but he's a chiropractor. So he's also working with his hands.
Yep.
And he's also able to feel the tension in people's bodies and be able to understand what's going on in their nervous system. And he's quite brilliant at it, actually, without giving him a plug. Just did. But, you know, then there'll be other people that are maybe really strong in one way. But I reckon since I've learnt neuro-linguistic programming, I have really become more rounded.
Okay.
So I use visual, I use audible, and I use kinesthetic.
Okay.
But does it go in a gender box? No.
Really, I'm glad to hear that.
Mm.
Because, you know, we are different, and but again, everybody's different.
Yeah.
We've all got our things, but yeah, I often hear that about the visual sort of element. And I think to myself, okay, when you brought that up, I thought, maybe it's something that's a bit special to us.
Yeah.
But clearly not.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we all use our minds in different ways. So the three ways you were just talking about, do you want to just talk through each one
Yeah.
individually?
So I was going to go back to your car and
It's
say
always
to
cars
you,
with me, right?
I know,
Very
right?
simple, right?
So if you're imagining your car
Yep.
or the car of your dreams, speaking of, you know, becoming very up close and personalized and attracting it into your energy fields, it's really important that you see the details, the color of it, the shape of it, the motor, the engine, like hearing the engine, whether it's a quiet hybrid, you know, or whether it's a rum, you know.
I'll be real. Can you possibly see me in a quiet car?
Not at all.
Oh,
Not even one bit.
I recently, a few months ago, I did buy a new car a few months ago, right? Anyway, took it to my close mate who's my mechanic. And I said, you know, basically, can you just go over it and you check everything and give me a list of anything that needs doing, whatever. Okay. Because I want to make sure it was all Mickey Duck. You know, I said, do that. And once you've done that, can you cut the exhaust system off, please? Because I wanted to, because I said, look, I want to make plenty of noise.
Yeah.
And he laughed at me. And I said, oh, you know, I'm serious, because I know you're serious.
Yeah,
He didn't cut it off, though.
Oh, damn.
He said, no, well, he didn't say it directly, but he inferred that, Aaron, grow up. Okay. You're not a teenager anymore.
That's not fair.
I know. So I will be out there with a hacksaw. So
Some people just believe in getting old.
Oh yeah.
Do you believe in that?
Well, he's much younger than me, but he's been I don't know. He's been the old wise man in my life for many years. So
Is that right?
some people just
what
mature
the
differently.
young person's the old wise man,
Yeah,
did you
old
say?
wise, absolutely. Yeah,
Oh,
fantastic.
I've got a son like that.
Oh, there
Bit
you
of an
go.
old soul. He's always telling me what to do, and
There
he's
we
always
go.
right.
Well, that's why, I mean, I used to joke about it, but hey, when I go to the supermarket, do you know I never buy the matured cheese? I only ever buy semi-matured. I don't want a cheese that's going to talk down to me. No. All right, come on.
Love his jokes. Love
Dad
his
joke.
jokes.
Dad
So
joke all the way.
back to your question, right?
Yes, please.
So you have got to get really clear with what you see.
Yep.
The color, the shape, and the sound. So rum rum,
All the way.
Yeah, rev that baby up, because it's really getting in touch with your nervous system and the frequency that you're vibrating at. And then move into the feeling. So what's it going to feel like when you've got your hands on the steering wheel?
Yep.
You put your foot on the, I don't know whether you have a clutch or anything, but, it depends.
Of course I have a clutch.
You have of course you have a clutch, yes. Well, I learnt how to drive with a clutch.
With a
it
manual.
was back in
Yep.
the olden days. So, the 18-year-old version of me, definitely back in them days, it was all manual. So you've got to get into that feeling. And then you even get into the smell of the leather or the seats and really bring it into your nervous system. Because if you can bring it in and you can touch it, hear it, feel it, see it,
Sure.
like Napoleon Hill says, whatever the mind can conceive, you can achieve.
The way you've explained it, or maybe it's just the way my mind works, because I was running through everything you just said. I literally was visualizing it, okay? And I was hearing it, and I was smelling it, and I was feeling it, all of those things. To be frank, it became a sensual thing.
Okay.
Right? It got to another sense, right? Maybe it's
That's okay.
too much. No, yeah, but
Yeah.
what I'm kind of saying is that you can immerse yourself in it.
Yes.
Right? It's not two-dimensional. It's very it's 4 and 5 and beyond, right?
It's usually practitioners' favorite modality to play with.
Okay.
I remember having one particular lady.
Yeah.
And she was Russian lady, and she was just so sophisticated, so incredibly, how would you put it, almost self-preserved.
Okay.
But I used to get her to get up and get the whole class into state. And so it would be like we're all standing in a circle.
Right.
Okay, get in. And every time you'd jump into the circle, you'd go, power, joy, peace. And I'm not joking. By the time she'd finished, she was like in every sensual cell of her body.
Wow.
And everybody would be just looking. But it was, she'd be laughing, she'd be excited. And it was just one of those rituals everyone loved because it was so fun.
See, okay, I'm really glad you said that. You said everyone loved it. I don't think I'd love that. I think that would actually really annoy me. Right? So, yeah, I mean, I love being in something that's emotional and all that.
Yeah,
but I sometimes like, and especially with a lot of the kind of I don't know, American-led kind of
I understand
teaching
that.
practice.
Yeah,
It's
it
just
does sound very Americanized in the group setting. But what you got to remember, because I'm quite sober when it comes. Oh, well, I'm not drinking when I'm consulting.
What's in that can? No, I'm mineral water. Look at that.
And vodka. No, just joking. No, all clear, crystal clear.
Of course.
Nothing but the best on the show. But it's really quite a sober thing. But I guess when the coaches are practicing their art, it's okay to amp it up. But I'm gonna ask you a question, and you don't have to answer it either. It's kind of rhetorical, and for everybody listening, all our listeners out there, have you ever been in a position where you had to enter into a room or a life situation where you felt as nervous as heck, where you really wanted, remember, rhetorical, because we've all got one of these, where you just felt so, in fact, a lot of people feel crippled with anxiety.
Hear it all the time.
This is even with showing up, whether it is showing up on camera, whether it is showing up to a court hearing, maybe an interview with a boss.
Sure.
Maybe meeting a love interest.
You never know.
Don't you reckon
Mm.
once you've anchored in all that stuff, even if it was a bit Americanized when you were practicing it,
Right.
that when you go in there and you can anchor yourself and you have that feeling.
Yep.
I mean, this is what I've done. I've helped people in that situation where they needed to go in to court
Sure.
or they needed to go into a really treacherous situation and actually have composure, confidence, certainty. Don't you reckon it would come in handy for that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not putting the kibosh on it. I'm just telling you, how I really honestly feel. Like, there's no the thing in life. Okay, if you're having conversation with people, let's just say, let's pretend, that I'm seeing you for some therapy here, right?
Yeah.
What would I possibly gain by going to somebody for therapy, for advice in life, for ways of going forward and improving my life? What would I possibly gain by lying to them?
So when you say what would you possibly gain by lying to them, what would be the lie?
Well, no, I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
okay, if I'm asking for your advice or your
Yes,
help,
yes.
if I'm giving you false information, how can
Oh.
you give me?
Oh,
you know what I mean? So-
let me just see if I can get this right. So
Okay.
what you're saying is, let's pretend you're a client and you're having me on, you're having a lend of me, and you sit down and you kind of pretend or you give me false situations or scenarios. Is that what you mean?
Well, sort of.
I'll be able to get to it. I'll be able to unravel it. I will.
Okay.
And anyone, can you believe me by that tone of voice? So you believe it.
Terrified now.
You can tell when a
Mhm.
person's got certainty. See, this is it. It's in every cell of your body.
Yep.
Most people, Aaron, they won't tell you exactly the truth.
No,
when
they don't.
come in.
They don't. I've got several
And it's not
friends.
that they're lying.
Well,
It's just that sometimes people will come in and they won't want to, they'll omit.
yeah. I've got several friends, quite a large amount of friends who are in the mental health industries, right? Whether it be, I've got several psychologist friends, one psychiatrist friend, a couple of counselors, quite a bunch, right? So, geez, it's a bit scary, the people I attract to my life.
Oh, I was going to say.
I think they probably look at me and go, challenge accepted. No, but these are friendship groups, right?
Yeah.
And obviously they don't tell you personal information, but some of them told me that, that people come and they literally lie to them.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and I just don't see the point.
But you know why they do it? Or
Why?
what the reason they do it?
Why?
Because there's a certain amount of guilt, shame, or not wanting to be totally honest and upfront.
Yep.
Because who's going to pay $350 odd to go to a therapist to tell them BS?
A lot of people, by the sounds of it.
And this is the thing. Unless there's a reason, like if they've been sentenced by, some kind of a judicial system,
Sure.
it may be different. But even then, I can tell you this right now: if you're a good practitioner in NLP,
Yep.
you'll nail it.
Yeah, I would tend to think so.
Yeah,
I would tend to
you
think
will
so.
get to the you will get to the bottom of it.
And you have clients that have done that in the past? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And it's not that they've lied to me.
Right.
It's that they don't want to talk about it. So they'll paint you a different picture.
Gotcha.
And there's a lot of people out there too that want to play the opposite too, the underdog. They'll want to kind of, oh, my life is perfect until you get to the bottom of it. And sometimes they're the best because when you get underneath it, when they can honestly find that, because everybody's got something.
Of course we do. Everybody's
got something. So, that lady that I just sat with, and hello to you if you listen, she's got so much potentiality.
Okay.
She doesn't even know where the lies are coming from. She's telling herself lies.
That's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah. She's telling herself stories that she's not good enough. And it's probably a lot of perfectionism that's coming into play as well.
Okay.
And
I get that.
she'll get to the bottom of it through these questions without having to even be intimate and tell me every detail, but she'll be able to nail it.
Would it be right to say that sometimes, you have the conversations in therapy and all of that, when the person leaves that situation, walks away, they kind of do a little bit of their own therapy on themselves with what they've learnt there? Does it?
I feel that when someone does a lot of this subconscious work, they naturally move into it because the subconscious is more powerful than the logic. So if you're just at this sort of shallow level, they might go away and do something. But I'll tell you a classic that happens, especially with trauma.
Right.
I remember I had a girl working with me and she came up to me. She says, look, Terri, I've seen all these people walk out. I've seen what they're like when they walk in and I've seen what they're like when they walk out. And 3 sessions later, she says, I'm going to be honest with you, but I've got something and I just can't get past it.
Okay.
In other words, it's dominating their brain.
Okay.
It's actually in their mind a lot. And this is what happens, especially with trauma. And if it's not there a lot, it'll trigger up.
Okay.
So in this case, quite funny, we did the work, we did the session. She went home, she came to work the next day. She said, oh, my gosh, that's crazy. And she's such a logical person and a bit like my kids, so skeptical, all that jazz. And she said, I laid in bed half the night going like this. She wasn't on the toilet. She was trying to get into the state she'd come in from.
Right.
So she was trying to practice. And some people, I had another guy, teenager, this was only last year, and he said, Terri, I've got to be honest with you, but I go home and I test this stuff out.
Yep.
He says, I actually concentrate on flipping back into that mindset. Okay. And I can't find it.
I think, wow, because if you're naturally skeptical kind of person, you're almost going to go and try and break it, right? And
it's human.
Of course.
Even when we're not skeptical, people will try and break it. Okay. They'll try to go back to it. They'll try and find it.
Yeah. I like that.
So weird.
Okay, we're talking about questions, so that's why I just grabbed the old piece of paper because I think we should jump into the questions here.
Absolutely.
Okay, I haven't seen these before. So
make sure, guys, if you've got a question too, bring them in.
Absolutely. They can come up on screen, obviously, if you write them in, away we go, or you can, obviously, these have been sent through with email.
Yep.
So if you don't want to be identified, that no drama whatsoever.
Absolutely.
I'm not identifying the people who have put these questions through. So, okay, the question, I'll go to the first one. You often talk about the power of NLP. Can you share some key NLP techniques and help people master their emotions? Sorry, it's written a bit strangely. Okay, so particularly about state anchoring and submodalities.
So they have obviously been listening to some of our shows, and it must have been the show where we were talking about submodalities.
Yep.
So I would go back to practicing the element of changing up the story with the what questions. So the submodality change, they call it the swish pattern.
Yes.
And the swish pattern is where you've got the scenario going on one side, and on the other side you've got the preferred state.
Okay.
And in short, what you're doing is you are matching the negative with the positive and overlapping it. But the submodalities that this person is talking about is what I meant by that is the way the brain is coded with the color system, like how you seeing that. Nobody thinks like that, right? Nobody goes, oh, well, how big is this picture and what am I actually saying and what does this voice sound like? I mean, Richard Bandler is very animated and he goes into this stuff.
I was concerned about that semi kind of, I don't know, the demonic voice you just fell into. I'm a bit concerned.
Right?
But there you go.
I'm trying to mimic Richard
I'm
Bandler.
teasing you.
But he's really animated and he'll say, well, why don't you just turn that down? So really, it's about being able to control, like pretend you've got a remote control and change the voice. Okay. You know have you ever heard that really corny saying where people are nervous, they've got to get up and do a talk and then some family member, Auntie Margaret or a mother or father says, just imagine everybody in their pajamas.
Forget the pajamas.
But, there's some sayings that are true. So if you revisit the scenario in your mind and you put Mickey Mouse ears on that person who's offended you and put them in the most embarrassing penguin suit or something like.
Oh, maybe a
and then-
leprechaun. That'd be
a
funny.
leprechaun.
Okay.
And shrink them down, and then you just kind of blow up like you're a lion, and you just like raw. There's something really powerful about that.
Okay.
You're doing it in your mind. It's a bit crazy,
A little bit.
but it works.
Yeah, okay. Well, sometimes you got to step outside the norm to get the results, I guess. Because if you just play everything safe, you're not going to achieve anything, are you?
No,
Really
absolutely not. It's just about the submodalities, going back to what that person said,
Okay.
and being able to utilize them. But
I
that's
appreciate
one
that.
way.
Well, okay. Well, let's go for another question here. So, okay. I've had negative emotions that can be really tough to deal with. How can I take my emotions like anger and fear and transform them into something positive?
Okay, that's a really good question. Man, this person knows, they've been listening to this stuff. They probably follow Tony Robbins or Joe Dispenza. And what you're really saying is, how do I take a negativity and transmute it? We call it transmuting it into something better. Look, good news and bad news with this one.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll go with the bad news first.
Okay.
Look, there's no point BSing about this.
Okay.
You've got to call a spade a spade.
You do.
If it's crap, it's crap. It's as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to really become one with the crap.
Right.
Remember I talked about getting, close to the shadow?
Yeah. Oh, that became very Yoda-like then.
Mm.
Be good with crap.
That's
I don't know.
it. That's it. And so
I think Kermit the Frog really more than Yoda, but I can accent was all wrong.
Kermit the Frog. I mean, what about Miss Piggy?
Oh.
Hey-ya!
I don't know. Their relationship reminds me of one of mine in the past, but never mind.
My gosh. So you got to be careful, like what you bring up when you are talking these things. So the truth of the matter is, you're not going to really be able to make a negative a positive unless there is the good news. Unless
go with the good news.
you get yourself a really good experienced coach practitioner who understands how to work with the subconscious, and this goes into the timelining.
Okay.
You can do it through a few ways. You can do it through energetics. Energetics is more where you're recognizing where you're holding that pain in your body,
Right.
and you're then resolving it, dissolving it, clearing it, and we go through a complete releasing, revoking, and rebirthing.
Now, that's really interesting you say that, because I've spoken to people in the past who have actually talked about exactly that, holding emotions, holding memories, holding this and that, things that are holding you back in parts of their body, right?
Yeah.
And dietary changes and things like that can alter that. These are people who are very different as far as they would never consider hypnosis or an NLP, but they understand that side of things. So it's interesting to see different forms of healthcare and wellness kind of coming together from different angles. I like that. Actually, on that front, okay, that last question I was talking about. So I'll throw this in, sort of my little bit to throw on it. But what about hypnosis when it comes to turning things from? We obviously know with NLP, but we're using hypnosis, turning negatives into positives. Tell me something about that.
All right. It all comes down, if you're talking like this is my language, remember I mentioned I'm Milton Erickson trained.
Yes.
So there is no control or suggestions made by the Milton Erickson person whatsoever.
Okay.
So it's all about listening to the client and understanding their language, because there's something very, very powerful. Doesn't matter whether it's the Milton model or the NLP model.
Okay.
And so what happens is Milton would get the language. They would talk about how exhausted they are, how they just feel held back from showing up, unmotivated, whatever it is. And he would replicate their language. He would make a couple of, very strong statements that they've made. And then he would start talking to them about a better time in their life, which is about the anchoring. And, well, when did you feel, because it's a recipe. Like
Right.
if you cook a curry,
Yep.
you can't put chocolate in the curry unless you're a bit crazy. But, generally speaking, a curry is a curry and a
But
chocolate
you
cake
can
is a
put it in
chocolate
your
cake.
chili con carne, just so you know. Or
Chocolate in chili con carne, is that serious?
Oh, it's serious. My friend does it.
Oh my
Okay. And I'm telling
gosh.
you right now, it's got an X factor to it. So there you go.
Oh my gosh.
Cooking
well,
tips
here
as
we
well.
go.
Oh.
Two for the price of one. So when you're creating this, you're
Mm.
making a recipe.
Okay. I like that.
So when you're asking back the questions of, well, what do you need?
Mm.
That's a recipe. If you're feeling shy or inhibited to show
Right.
up or uncertain or fearful, fear that you're going to, fail or whatever that is,
Sure.
what would be the combat that would be able to supersede it? So would you need certainty? Would you need confidence? Would you need joy? Would you
Gotcha.
need peace? But you let them talk. So in the hypnosis model, when the person is then getting ready to let the coach then move in, because they've asked all the questions, they've collated all the wording and everything like
Yep.
that. And of course, with the hypnosis, you've got to remember to be able to say, well, you did used to feel really exhausted, didn't you? So you start using past, present tense. And isn't it
Gotcha.
nice to know that as you sit here, remember the truisms,
Mhm.
and as you see me, as you wear the hat,
Mhm.
as you are listening to this,
Yep.
you may just find your energy rising and rising and rising, isn't it? Now. So then
You're moving the tents.
yeah, you are.
Right.
So what happens is the subconscious is going, there's a lot of credibility,
Right.
because as long as it's the truth
Mhm.
and that person has, it is true for them,
Sure.
then you're going to be able to hit the mark. And in this way, once that actually happens, then you move into the hypnosis. Do you know, just as a point of interest, the hypnosis session only goes for about, it can be as little as a minute.
No way.
I'm true.
Really?
This is true.
Okay.
The majority of the session with hypnosis is what we call an induction.
Right.
They do all sorts of different inductions,
Yeah.
gaining rapport, getting them into that relaxed state, knowing that you've bypassed the logic. The wall of judgment has dropped. And soon as that happens, they don't have to be like, because when people say to me, well, what if I can't go to sleep, Terri?
Mm-hmm.
I say, well, who the heck will I be talking to then? Do you know what I mean? So you've got to give them a chance to understand that everything is just normal.
Okay.
It is what it
Because
is.
as you sort of were alluding to before, there are different types of hypnosis, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are the major ones?
So the Milton Model
Mhm.
is the one I follow.
Yep.
But then there is quite a renowned person. I think he was in Australia, Rick Collingwood.
Okay.
He won't mind me mentioning.
Right.
But he ended up dealing with a lot of the football players and things like that.
And I'm like Collingwood, of course.
And he's probably a Collingwood supporter.
Oh, look, does he have more
I
than
don't
three
know
teeth?
that.
I don't know. Come on.
But, he tends to speak to the umpires, the coaches,
Okay.
and then he'll see what they need and he'll put the suggestions in.
Right.
But he'll use a different model altogether to do like an induction to get, that rapport, to get all of that. See, I think you're going into a trance, Aaron.
Really?
You could be in a trance
Oh,
now.
look, one thing you can be very comfortable with me.
Mm.
I'll never be trans.
Well,
Boom,
do you even
Sorry.
know what a trance is?
I was joking. Jeez.
But a trance is like, when a person starts to not listen.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was not doing that at all. I was just
No.
Jeez.
But you see them wander, like they might go off,
Right.
and that's a trance. A trance is when they, like, you put yourself in a trance all the time, like when you're daydreaming or you're thinking about, when you go into it, when you learn how to put yourself into a trance, that's when you can begin to start making the suggestions into yourself of what you're going to be. No point saying, you're going to have a great car, great life, excited, feeling fantastic, be so successful if you're just not feeling it. You've got to go into that trance. You've got to allow the subconscious to be open and receptive
Gotcha.
to receiving it.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually a good point, because you can put all the building blocks together, but if you're not in a position to receive it, it won't make the change. It's like advice, people can give you advice, whatever, but if you're not if you're not ready, if you're not in that place where that's what you want in life, you're not ready to make that step, it can be the best advice in the world, but you're not going to take it.
Exactly. Yep. 100%.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've hit the end of the show. So what we need to do is make sure that people want to speak to you one-on-one, because I think this is really important. I love what we do here, but let's be frank. If you want to get the most of it, I think one-on-one's got to be the go, right? So they can hit you up all sorts of places. Give us an idea. Where can we find you?
Okay, so Facebook page, Terri Messenger, or Terri Messenger, the cricket show, Terri Messenger, Transformation Queen.
Yep.
Or terrimessenger.com.
Easy as that. All right, fantastic. You can also get in touch with you through the station here, edgeradioaustralia.com. Fantastic. We'd love to sort of put you together and, improve your life, okay? Like life, we get one crack at it. Well, we know. That's what we know of at this stage. So why not make the best of it? All right. Thank you very much, Terri. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for those watching online. Really appreciate that. Those who are listening all over the world on edgeradioaustralia.com. We really, really appreciate you listening. Tell a friend. Do this thing. Okay. This is the thing that I always forget. Okay. I'm just no good at this, but the YouTube thing. Okay. Please like and subscribe. And if you love the show, tell a friend, tell 1,000 friends. If you don't, keep to yourself.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. That's right. But yeah, like and subscribe would be fantastic. We are trying to grow a wonderful community here to make lives better. And Terri, you're a big part of that. And I really love what you're doing. And I'm learning a lot. So very happy with that. This is, of course, the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia.
What is it that in the hypnosis? What is it
where does one?
What is it that this is the first. Thank you for joining us on another empowering episode of our show, where we have explored through this various topic, along with all the exciting new topics that we bring every week to enhance your personal mastery of excellence. Now, I'd love you to do me a favor. In fact, be part of the legacy 1 million that I have in the vision for 2028. If you know someone who really would benefit from this recording, from this episode, please share it with them. And when you subscribe, you get notified every week of our episode as soon as it drops. So let's do that legacy thing. Let's share, let's care, let's enrich. And I look forward to bringing you another week of the most enriching content. So until next time, stay inspired, stay awesome, and keep on mastering your excellence.